Impeachment is over. One of Colorado's senators got angry. The other pleaded for cooperation. Want to guess who's who? Colorado wants to lower the bar, in a sense, when it comes to how people vote. Denver moves against a homeless camp outside of downtown, and a man there tells us where he was told to go. If you want to work for the company that messed up the Iowa caucuses, they're hiring in Denver. And it's a sign of a spelling bee gone wrong and a school sense of humor. Next. President Trump is forever an impeached president and forever an acquitted president. So everyone can choose which of those they want to remember and which they'll choose to ignore. Republican Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says that impeachment has been good for his senators, like Colorado's Cory Gardner, who's up for re-election this year. Gardner backed President Trump at every turn through impeachment. He voted against removal today, and he spoke of moving on.
Passion positively placed will provide our nation with the prosperity it has always been blessed with. Partisan poison will prove devastating to our nation's long-term prosperity. We must not allow our fractures to destroy our national fabric or partisanship to destroy our friendships. If we come together, we will succeed together.
Senator Gardner did a wide-ranging media tour today. We invited him here. His spokeswoman said he did not have time to talk with us. Democratic Senator Michael Bennet has been talking to anybody who will listen. It is clear that he has grown frustrated with the Senate itself, even beyond President Trump's impeachment trial.
We voted on 26 amendments last year. 26. 26. In the world's greatest deliberative body, we passed 8 amendments in a year. Pathetic. Even when there are literally witnesses with direct knowledge of what the president did, practically banging on the door of the Senate saying, "Let me testify." We're too lazy for that.
Republican Senator Mitt Romney became the first senator to ever vote to remove a president of his own party. The president's family immediately called for his removal from the Republican caucus. I'll return to this in a moment with a word on whether what we saw from Senator Romney was courage, and then how we judge the rest of Congress. Tomorrow we learn what will happen to the Aurora police officer caught driving so drunk he was practically flammable. District Attorney George Brockler has suggested it will be tough to build a criminal case against Officer Nate Meyer, because the fellow APD officers who found Meyer blacked out in his patrol car, armed and on duty, did not treat it as a drunk driving case. His blood wasn't drawn for evidence. It came out later in an internal affairs investigation, which cannot be admitted as evidence in court. Aurora police demoted Meyer, but kept him on the force. Colorado's long ballots. They're complicated enough in English. Picture reading them in your second language. Oh, you only speak one fluently. Yeah, me too. But thousands of our neighbors speak a couple of languages, and the law requires that they get a ballot that they can best understand. Our new Roy looks at how legislators want to expand that access.
Day one of when Vietnamese refugees had arrived in Colorado.
Na Vong Sandoval, a community activist, is still listening to people who said they aren't voting.
I don't think our community is alone in that.
Because of a language barrier.
And as far as speaking, conversational versus reading and writing the language, they're significantly different.
But sometimes the Tabor language that we see on the ballot is confusing. It's confusing even for me, and I have a doctorate.
Democratic Representative Yadira Caraveo, representing Adams County, said this issue could impact more than 100,000 Coloradans, which is why she's trying to come up with a uniform rule for the state on when counties need to provide multilingual ballots and set up a statewide hotline to help with translation.
So that we can accommodate more Coloradans.
A federal law requires multilingual ballots when 5% of the county's population speaks another language. The state law would cut that in half. Right now, 4 counties in Colorado provide bilingual election materials, the biggest being Denver, where they're required to translate into Spanish and also do the same for 5 other languages, including Vietnamese.
The Vietnamese language is one of the top 5 most spoken language in Colorado.
But some clerks aren't convinced the state needs to step in because they have faith in the federal rules.
Those numbers have been reviewed by Republican and Democrat administration's Department of Justice.
In El Paso County, the Republican clerk and recorder said he has faith in the work they've put in to make voting as easy as possible.
As clerks, we're concerned about the cost.
And is worried about what could be lost in translation.
We're concerned about the legal liability. You know, when you translate from one language to another, another, especially when things are very legal and technical in nature.
So the way that the law is written right now is that counties would pay for the printing, and the Secretary of State, along with those counties, would be handling the translations. And this could potentially change the rules from the current 4 counties, increasing it to 22 counties in Colorado that would have to change the languages around their ballots.
Someone out there forgetting, understandably, that English is not the official language of America is thinking, well, don't you have to speak English in order to vote?
No. So actually, if you're trying to become a citizen, right, you're going through that naturalization process, you can be 50 or older and be exempt from the English language requirement. So that essentially means that there are people who can become a citizen but may still have trouble understanding a ballot because of the language.
And plenty of other people who can understand English, speak English, but might not be comfortable with a complex text in English.
And you know, being able to vote on that.
Sure. All right. Thank you, Anusha. The city of Denver is sweeping away homeless camps far from downtown now. The Hancock administration cited a public health problem as the justification for breaking up a camp today along the Sand Creek Trail. It was up near 270 in Quebec. Up there, our Steve Stager heard some of the sharpest talk yet about where people are being told to go.
Just in this area, there's probably about 30 people.
Nestled between major highways near a bike path along a river is a familiar scene, a growing homeless encampment that's now being broken up by the city. They're citing health concerns.
And they went ahead and posted it on some of the trees.
Floyd Williams-Stallin and his wife have been here about a year, and this is the first time they've been pushed away, though there have been warnings from police in the past.
He said there is no place in Denver City or Denver County that you're allowed to pitch a tent. And I was like, well, where would you suggest I go? He said, anywhere but here.
Anywhere but here. We've been told time and again that when these camps are broken up, the people living in them just move on to other places, like across the county line into Adams County.
We have noticed our population is growing. We have recently allocated $1.5 million of our budget for addressing homelessness and homelessness-related issues.
Emma Pinter, a Democrat, is the chair of the Adams County Commission. That $1.5 million is earmarked toward cleaning up along trails in Adams County. Pinter also pointed to money that the county's allocated to emergency sheltering, adding a park ranger program, and an effort to create a day works program. Jefferson County hired a homeless coordinator and navigators who work to point folks towards services. Arapahoe County says it's worked to network with service providers and cities to respond to crises.
I think we're all working regionally to find solutions that benefit the most number of people.
So all counties told me today, much like any issue involved with the homeless, it's difficult to quantify who is moving from where. They all count on that once yearly point-in-time survey to determine their homeless populations, and that data isn't usually released, Kyle, until the summer.
You hear anything from Adams County or anybody else about frustration with Denver just kind of pushing everybody to the city limits and making somebody else's problem?
I asked the chair of the commission today, I said, is there a position from your board on Denver's decision to do this? She flatly said no.
All right. Steve Stager, thank you. This is embarrassing to acknowledge, but the TV news business, my business, has just recently realized that everyone on air should be allowed to be their natural selves, in particular, women of color. The Crown Act, moving through the state legislature, would prohibit any employer or school from forcing somebody to change their hair however they feel comfortable if that hairstyle is historically linked to race, like an afro or locks. Testimony at the Capitol today included the return of a Denver news legend, Renelda Muse, a trailblazing anchor at Channel 4 before she went national.
They wanted me to model myself after white women reporters. The reaction from management was no less encouraging or accepting. One of the news directors asked me if I would allow his German-born wife to style my hair. Can you imagine that? Being called into the office and being asked if the news director's wife could style your hair.
If the Crown Act is eventually passed and signed by the governor, Colorado would become the 4th state to make it law after California, New York, and New Jersey. A final word now on impeachment. So, was Senator Romney courageous to vote to remove President Trump? I am guessing that your answer to that is determined by your view of President Trump. But you know, there is a simpler easier kind of courage demonstrated by both Democrats and Republicans, people for and against impeachment and removal. It's a kind of courage that honestly is so basic, it probably isn't even courage at all. But we're going to call it basic courage for the sake of this discussion. Hundreds of Democrats and Republicans in Congress faced that central question of whether President Trump did something wrong, and they showed the basic courage to directly answer that question for voters. Colorado's Republican Congressman Ken Buck decided that it was fine for the president to ask a foreign power to investigate a political rival, and Buck directly said so. Colorado's Democratic Senator Michael Bennet decided that what the president did was not fine, and Bennet directly said so. But the whole impeachment trial has now come and gone without Senator Cory Gardner ever coming up with the basic courage to directly answer that question.
She expected one of the happiest days of her life and ended up in the neonatal intensive care unit.
It's a very challenging place to sit and say, I just don't want to be alone.
We meet a woman trying to make sure that others can get through that daunting surprise. And a tech company in Denver is hiring. You may know them from messing up the Iowa caucuses this week. That's next.
If you're in the market for a new job, Monday night's Iowa caucus debacle has opened up a little position in the tech industry here in Denver. This is not a joke. Shadow Inc. is tied to the app that caused major problems during the caucuses on Monday night. They have an office here in Denver, and they are newly hiring a product manager position posted to the job search website Daybook yesterday. Job is also on Shadow Inc.'s website. They have offices in Denver, New York, and Seattle. This position has it being listed in Denver, New York, or D.C. They say they're looking for someone who is solutions-oriented. Maybe that was the problem. And also, quote, willing to get dirty and jump in to help wherever you can to get the job done. Maybe that was the issue.
So nice to see the sun today, but it was cold. I don't have to tell you that. We started off at -5. Our high today at 26 should be in the mid-40s. We'll be a little closer to this number tomorrow, but a short-lived warm-up as we have another powerful storm coming in. This one's going to bring heavy snow, 1 to 2 feet to the northern and central mountains. Gusty winds out of the northwest to 60 miles per hour will make travel very tough on I-70 tomorrow night through Friday. Northern Colorado, north of Denver up through Fort Collins and Greeley, a winter storm watch there for about 4 to 6 inches of snow by Friday evening, and a lot of wind that can make travel very tough from Denver up to Cheyenne. Denver's looking at an inch or 2 of snow by Friday afternoon, and it will certainly be colder. But if you're headed north or west in the next 24 to 36 hours, please monitor the weather conditions. The wind is really going to create some difficult travel. Clear, cold, and calm in Denver. Are low at 12 tonight. Tomorrow, partly cloudy and warmer. We've got snow showers coming in tomorrow night into Friday. Inch or 2 of accumulation here. Warm start to the weekend. 20% chance we'll see snow showers on Sunday, and another chance for snow on Wednesday of next week. So this February pattern, kind of fun.
When you think of the NICU, you probably think of the small babies, the beeping, the machines. What you might not think of is the fear. A mother knows it, and she wants to help others. And the 2020 census won't be released for another month. So why are so many of you getting things that look like the census? Next.
One in 8 babies born in America will need the life-saving help that a NICU offers. What their parents will need while those babies are there, that's the focus of a mother from Boulder County.
Baby Jackson in the bottom here, and Catalia, Effie, and she is 3. These are all families that we have served in one way or another, who share their beautiful moments and babies with us.
My name is Sarah Cahoon. I'm the Executive Director and Founder for Love for Lilly. We provide support to help families learn coping skills, as well as to build community. Love for Lilly began from this feeling of there has to be more, and the NICU shouldn't be such a scary, isolating place. So Love for Lilly started in memory of our first daughter, Lilly. She was taken immediately to the NICU. She spent 3.5 months really fighting for her life. She passed in November of 2011. And it's a very challenging place to sit and say, I just don't want to be alone. And so we're that voice. We're that voice that says you don't have to do it alone, and we get it. And sometimes we're the voice that says it's okay to not be okay. I feel like Lilly lives in my heart and in the hearts of all of the families that we touch. They all get a little piece of that love.
Baby Quinn is twins over here. They are baby Finn.
So the 2020 census is coming up, but the people and the parties trying to take advantage of that fact, they are already hard at work. That's what Republicans are doing with this flyer. Our viewer Jane got it in Cherry Hills Village and brought it to our attention. It's labeled a 2020 Congressional District Census. This is just a way for the party to gather information and to target voters. But, I mean, at least there on the form, it does say that their so-called census will help them devise a winning Republican strategy. And it also asks for a contribution. They don't do that on the census. And then there's this flyer, also brought to our attention, a 2020 voter registration confirmation and survey of 10 million Christian Americans. It was sent out by the Faith and Freedom Coalition, came to a home in Littleton. It says there that the information collected from the survey will help them target their resources effectively to make sure the right people get elected. They mean President Trump. It also asks for donations on the backside of it. Again, the census is not going to ask you for a donation. If you get something in the mail, though, that looks funky, especially if it says census on it, we're always happy to check it out because chances are your neighbors are seeing it too. You can snap a photo and email it to us at next@9news.com or get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext. When we return, it's a sign that made us smile, and then the sign maker's response, well, that was even better. It's a sign that we should all double-check the spelling on spelling bee signs. Now, to be fair, Trailside Academy in the Mapleton district did spell most of the words right as they advertised their school spelling bee, but our viewer Andy did notice that they misspelled school. It gave us a little laugh, gave Andy a laugh too. And the fine folks at Trailside, they have a sense of humor about it as well. When they saw on Twitter that Andy had sent it to us, they sent this.
We always thought that our first 15 minutes of fame would be because of our outstanding students. OUTSTANDING STUDENTS.
Or our talented teachers, TALENTEDTEACHERS.
Or our beautiful school, BEAUTIFULSCHOOL.
That's great stuff. Gotta love the sense of humor. Tonight in feedback, Craig says thank you for continuing to call attention to Senator Gardner's silence. We elected him. He owes all of us on both sides of the issue an honest answer. But John's not pleased. He said, you might try to be less Democratic and liberal. Try walking the middle, or are you afraid you will lose your job? John, I never lost my job for criticizing Mayor Hancock or then Governor Hickenlooper or Senator Bennett or then President Obama. So I hardly doubt that that's going to cause me to lose my job. And finally tonight, Hannah Hill. What's with the women's cut suit? Channeling some Michael Scott? You don't like this one? I don't think it's a women's suit. It might be. I'm not certain I would know the difference. We'll see you next time.